Hello, hello. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to the Fintorn Bay Arts AMP Music Online Training Program. This is the first session of 2022. This is a run of discussions called Working Creatively and Creating Work. The aim of these discussions is to shine a light on the differing avenues you can take to find ways to sustain a passion for music, work within the industry, and personal progression in your chosen field. There's a somewhat unbalanced view of work within the creative industry that prioritizes creating art in order to create a career. This is somewhat true, of course, but there are also many, many other ways in which you can find a career within the creative sector, which aren't seen as traditionally creative. Today, we're going to be exploring one such way with Ira Osborne, who is a business owner and DJ in Glasgow. He runs and operates the Bass Warrior sound system, the only Scottish sound system with Caribbean roots. He also is a successful DJ and a successful club night promoter. His club night is called To Let, and it runs in Glasgow. We'll be talking about that later in the session, but for now, I would like to introduce Ira.
Hello, how's it going?
There he is. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. We were just on before, so if anyone's wondering what casual, if we've already had a little chat.
Yeah.
But so first of all, Ira, how are you doing? What's been going on?
Yeah, good. Just been, working away. Just trying to keep busy. It's obviously a bit rubbish just now with like lockdown and stuff. Can't really get nights happening, but yeah, everyone's kind of in the same situation. You just kind of have to take it as is. But stuff opening up soon, so hopefully that's good.
This week,
for everyone,
I think we
yeah,
are.
exactly.
We're somewhat back to normal. Cool. Well, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, like what you're up to, and what do you do?
Yeah.
And then
So I'm, obviously, as you said, I'm Ira Osborne, DJ, sound system owner. Like I promote nights in Glasgow, and I've done nights throughout Scotland and stuff. The sound system's called Bass Warrior Sound System, and as Lewis said, yeah, it's the only sound system in Glasgow with like roots in the Caribbean, and that's through my dad, Kenny Osborne, the DJ Dirksman, as people might know him as. But yeah, he built the sound system, and I think it was like 2005, maybe 2005, 2006. Like I was pretty young. Yeah, I was pretty young when he built it. But I remember like,
years.
yeah, it's been running for a long time, man. Like more time than people actually really think. Like he built it, and it was like, yeah, it was even back then. Like there wasn't really many sound systems about when he built it and stuff. Like like I've told you before. Obviously, like one of the main reasons he built the sound system was because all the equipment he was getting was rubbish, and he was just like, nah, like I'm sick of this. Like I need my own sound system.
Yeah, and he knew. Exactly. He knows that he knew what he was doing, knew how to create that for himself. So for anyone tuning in who isn't entirely sure exactly what we're talking about just yet, before we dive into talking more about Bass Warrior and yourself, Ira, I thought I would give just a very brief summary of sound system culture, so that folks have an idea of the context of what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to quote I'm going to quote a line from Bass Mids Tops, an oral history of sound system culture that was written by Joe Muggs. So the quote goes, in the years following the arrival of the Windrush generation, the UK's sound system culture would become the most important influence on contemporary pop music since rock and roll. Pumped through towering home-built speakers, often directly onto the thronged streets of events like Notting Hill Carnival, the pulsating bass lines of reggae, dub, rave, jungle, trip-hop, dubstep, and grime shaped the worlds of several generations of British youth culture and have often been overlooked by historians obsessed with swinging London and punk and Britpop. So that is kind of a very broad overview, and it doesn't obviously do justice to the history and the heritage of sound system culture, but that gives you a basic understanding of what we are going to be talking about and what Bass Warrior Sound System is about. So as mentioned earlier, you are the owner and the boss of Bass Warrior Sound System. Can you tell me a little bit about the sound system's history? I know you briefly mentioned that you're with your dad, and why it came into being and how you became involved with it.
Yeah, so like, as I said, obviously built it so he could he had his own system. He didn't have to rely on anyone else, and even just as well, so he could just do his own stuff. Like he didn't that's like sometimes maybe in Glasgow it's about like getting into venues and all this kind of stuff. But if you've got your own speakers there, then you can just really do whatever you want. Like it's not, you don't need to rely on anyone. But yeah, he built it, and it's been like a sort of reggae, dancehall, soca, like pretty like traditional to like most like actual real, proper Caribbean sound systems. I know when in the UK it's maybe a bit more like, but maybe a bit more like reggae based. But he definitely built his, so like you could hear like dancehall and stuff, and a bit quicker like soca especially. He loved
Nice.
all that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
he, a lot of people when you'd seen him his long dreads and his just the way he looked, you'd probably think he was like big on reggae,
Yeah.
but he loved his like dancehall, soca, just all that kind of stuff, like his faster music. Even like that's what even like because obviously the music I play is a lot of it like with Tool especially is definitely very different
Yeah.
to what he was into, but he still loved that because it was like fast and up tempo and
Yeah.
like, you could actually groove to it.
Well,
So that's what,
I guess in some respects, like his, yeah, like going against what you had said would people may stereotypically have thought he'd be into.
Mhm.
It's an influence on you yourself anyway,
No,
and
exactly.
they're all kind of steeped within one another in a lot of
Mhm.
respects anyway. And there's a lot of lineage between all of these different genres of music, and they all
Yeah.
come from sound system culture in a lot of ways.
No, exactly. Because even like, my dad's from Montserrat in the Caribbean. Big up Montserrat every time. But my dad's from Montserrat in the Caribbean, and he came to Glasgow to like study. And I think that's like it's quite funny though, because like in the Caribbean, like he was like an okay DJ, but like he
Yeah,
wasn't really like anything like special or like amazing or whatever. But obviously, like when he came to Glasgow, he just kind of like had that flair when he was DJing and like but like still it's funny though because we met my mum through DJing. So my
mm.
mum used to do my mum's a DJ as well as you know, but people
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
listening might not also know. My mum's a DJ as well, and through so they like kind of did nights together and stuff. And but what my mum always said was she had the better song selection, but my dad's like mixing was just like unreal. It
yeah.
was just like no one was better than him, and I've seen it so many times. Him DJing and he just like the way he would just jump from song to song. It's just like effortless.
Wow.
And especially with that kind of style of music, like dancehall, soca, it's like it's difficult. Like it's a difficult like even me myself, like I think I'm okay at DJing like
Yeah.
dancehall and stuff, but if you put me up against him when like back in the day, he would have smoked me every single time. Do
Yeah.
you know what
And also as
I mean?
well with a lot of like dancehall and soca and things like that, it's not necessarily been made on a drum machine. It's made, like
Yeah,
a lot of stuff is live drums, and
no,
so it's
exactly.
already all over the place in terms of time signature and trying to
No, but
mix that.
and that's what's so good about it as well, because when you see dancehall artists or whatever like live, it's always live band, and
Yeah,
like I always think a live band for that style of music just it sounds so good. It just adds such a different like thing to it. It just makes it like pop so much more. Like you get
yeah,
to hear every single like little instrument the way it's meant to sound.
yeah, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's part of the reason why he would build the sound system because he wants to hear the music he loves the way it's meant to sound. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he was tired of hiring sound systems. That probably back in the day were really expensive to hire as well. I can imagine, and
yeah,
like because it wouldn't have been as accessible. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
back in the day, it would have been expensive, and if you're not happy with it, he was one of those people who's like, if I'm not happy with it, I'm just going to do it myself. Like
yeah.
I don't want to rely on anyone.
So I think because we so for context, folks, we've actually chatted about this before, Ira and I. We
Mm,
did a radio show way back. I can't even remember what year it was anymore now. It's all kind of blurring
yeah,
into
a long time ago.
pandemic. But we did it, and you mentioned the one thing that really stuck with me was where your dad actually built the system. So if you could
Oh
tell
yeah,
everyone a bit about
yeah,
where he built it and how that came
yeah. Yeah, of course. So like my dad, he was a legend in the the dental hospital in town, the big dental hospital in Sucky Hill Street. He was a living legend in there. Everyone absolutely loved him, and like he could just basically that was just his place. He could just do whatever he wanted there. He worked in like the maintenance department, so he would go from like floor to floor and he would know everyone, and like he would always. It's a story I tell everyone, but so in the maintenance department he like brought in like a stove so he could like properly like instead of people go for lunchtime they just have like wee sandwiches or whatever. But he brought in like a full oven and stove so he could like properly like cook meals.
Cooking away.
And like people would, you'd smell the smell of the food like coming down the corridor and everything. So people would always go in there. So yeah, the first like speaker boxes he built was like in like the basement of the dental hospital in town, which is just like insane. I need to show you the picture. I've got like a picture of him and he's like lying on the first speaker box he's ever made,
Oh,
and it's just like just the surroundings. It's just because it's like where all like the pipes and everything were like it it wasn't like if you're like just a space you could do stuff in. Like it was definitely very tight and like. But it was even now it was crazy. Like so, he basically used to store them in the dental hospital as well.
Yeah.
But the first place he had to move, like it was a bit kind of inconvenient for people because like it was kind of like it was just this place. So there was like a hallway to take you from like one side of the hospital down to the other, and you just had like speakers just lined up in that just in that wee corner. It was too funny. Like it's just like if that was anyone else, you'd probably get sacked. But just like how well liked he was around that place,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you could just do it.
People willing to give him a little bit extra for it. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. Well, I think we're gonna play. There's a song by the Heptones that I really love, and it's one that I always want to hear on a sound system. So we're just gonna play that quickly, and then we'll crack on with talking a little bit more about your dad and the sound system.
Yeah, sounds good.
Where I should have been. Not until we stand up and fight for. Dreadlocks, the time is now. Stand up, fight for your right. Cause you ain't gonna get your culture, man. Roots natty, don't give up, oh no. Dreadlocks, the time is now. Stand up, fight for your right. Cause you ain't gonna get your culture, man. Roots natty, don't give up, oh no. If I am wrong, be not afraid to say so. Is there any difference between black and white? We are all of one skin. Same blood, same soul. There are some things dreadlocks don't count. Dreadlocks, the time is now. Stand up, fight for your right. Cause you ain't gonna get your culture, man. Roots natty, don't give up, oh no. Dreadlocks, the time is now. Stand up, fight for your right. Cause you ain't gonna get your culture, man. Roots natty, don't give up, oh no. I let you go. Nah, give it up. No.
Nice. I love that one.
Nice. Good on it.
It's a good one. I just imagine like hearing that on a sunny day in a park, having some food, surrounded by friends and family. That's what it's about, isn't it? So basically, I want to kind of move on to your involvement in Bass Warrior, because we talked a little bit, obviously, about your mum and dad meeting and starting and your dad building it and whatnot. So what's one of your kind of like earliest memories of being like physically involved with the sound system, other than just maybe being there as in the side scenes,
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. See from the point I had like any muscle in my arm, like I was made to lift speaker boxes. Like I didn't really have like obviously like I've said it before, like I loved doing it, but like I didn't have any choice.
Yeah, fair.
Like my dad, he didn't have like a big crew or anything. Like
Yeah.
if like for me moving it now, like I could just shout like so many of my boys and they would come help me. But like my dad, he didn't. I don't know. I don't know if it was like maybe he only trusted me, maybe, or like he just wanted me to like learn. Like if he shouted a big team of people that I wouldn't be learning anything. But
Yeah, that's true.
like as soon as I had any muscle in my arm, I was like lifting speakers into vans, like wiring up speakers, wiring up sound system. Like I was doing all that thing. Like, but that thing from like a young age, it was always something that like fair enough. Maybe when you're a bit younger, you're like, oh, I want to go out with my friends, I want to do this. But
Yeah.
being around something like that, like it's so interesting and it's just so like inspiring to see someone like build something from like ground up and
Absolutely.
just like hear it. Like, but I remember the first time it was brought out was, do you remember the Carnival Arts Centre?
Yeah.
I can't remember what street, but the Carnival Arts Centre next to like down like the Trongate area. The first night he ever did was in there, and I remember like bringing in the sound system with him, and like just like how excited he was, and like it sounded like so good as well. Like one of those like straight away you're like, yeah, this is the best sound system in Glasgow, just from when you hear it.
You must have been so proud.
Yeah, I know.
When did it transition from like helping out to kind of taking the reins, so to speak?
So like I'd probably say the first couple of times I was me that was like doing it would probably be when we did the 2 late nights in the warehouses. That was definitely the first kind of like you obviously still helped, but like cause that was me and my friends, like it was us that was doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like fair enough, like helping's okay, but if it's us running the night and it's me that's operating the sound system, I've got like I can't be relying on someone else, and that's kind of like the sort of base order motto really. Like it needs to be like we need to know what we're doing when we do it. Do you know what I mean? But like but then probably for the sound system full time, it would like for people that don't know, like my dad passed away like a few years ago, so like after all that happened, and like at the time it was obviously like it was very difficult to even really think about doing sound system stuff just because of how emotional it was. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember me and my mum like going to the studio and like just like looking at the sound system like, oh my god, like what do we do now?
I mean, it must have been steeped in like it has so much tied to it that's to your dad that it's like it's a very visceral memory, like
no,
a reminder.
But that's just one of those ones like. So that I think that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. So like it was like I said, it took like quite a long time for us to actually really be productive with it, and like actually like just like what how life is. Do you know what I mean? But then I think the first night we did, or maybe the first time we brought it out since then, and probably that's really since been the start. Was like before lockdown we did a night in it was like a day. No, sorry, actually I'm wrong. So as like just like a few months after he passed away, we put on like a day and night event, and the day part of it was in Goma, which is obviously like insane, like having a sound system in an art gallery. Do you know what I mean? Like just for because it was a complete like obviously a tribute to him.
Yeah,
which is like crazy. Like it's insane.
And like, especially in Goma with Goma's history as what it was. Like it was
exactly. Like a slave master's house and all that. Like it's just like it's insane to think that his impact was that heavy that we could we could bring the sound system into Goma and like put on a tribute day for him. And then obviously the night part of it was at the old African Art Centre.
Yeah.
And then that was like Mungo's Hi-Fi Little Roy. Like I remember I did like the closing set at it, which is like it's just such like a nice feeling. It was such like a nice feeling because all my friends were there. Like like it just been such like a heavy day, and like to like just like to at the end of the night just get that release of like all these people are here to celebrate my dad's life and celebrate this sound system, and it's me that's like closing it out. Like it was insane. But like ever since, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, just a very poignant moment. That's what I was going to say.
No, but yeah, ever since that, it's been me and my mum operating it, and we've like another thing is it's been like what feels like 15 years of COVID, but like we've done quite a few nights, and even recently like I brought the sound system out for the Vag Power night at Stereo, and like Troops to Heartland and all these kind of things. Like it's definitely been picking up now that the restrictions are lifted, but. Yeah, it's me and my mum operating it, and if it's not me and my mum, then it's not going to be baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So on that note, you've mentioned a couple of places and people that you've installed the system for. I was going to ask, do you see any differences between the way you and your mum are operating the system now in comparison to the way your dad did back in the day? Was your dad like installing for lots of different kinds of events as well? Because you said about him being into all different styles of music. Because I know obviously you're doing things at Stereo for Vag Power, like the dubstep nights, and then African Arts Center, and at Jupiter Artland. That was a whole mishmash of different types of music.
Yeah. No, so definitely it was all within still like kind of dancehall, electronic, and that kind of stuff. But he did there was a lot of nights he did there was like hip hop nights and like nights where there was MCs and stuff. But it was even crazy. Like I was thinking, a point I was going to bring up, but I just thought about when I was listening to that song, which I don't really know how I got the link from them both. But do you remember Magnetic Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dubstep trio. I remember when I was a bit younger, I really got into Magnetic Man quite heavily.
Oh, me too, big time.
But then I remember my dad telling me, he's like, you've met all three of these people. I was like, what do you mean? He was like when I did the sound system for them at the art school. I was like, I had no idea of this. So it was like even just stuff like that. That's such a legendary. They were such a legendary trio.
I mean, that's Benga, Scream, and
artwork. Yeah.
That's like godfathers of dubstep, essentially.
Yeah. I know. But then he done so many cool events and just stuff that you'd be so proud of. Do you know what I mean? It's not small feats at all. Big events. Even outdoor events, and they did the sound system at what's that festival? Eden Festival. He did the sound system. Yeah, he did the sound system and that maybe 3 or 4 times, I think. Do you remember they had not the big main stage, but do you remember they had the kind of reggae dub stage? He did the sound system at that, that was obviously good for me because we got free tickets to all these festivals.
Absolutely.
Eden, Wicker Man, all those kind of things. It was fast to be fair.
It sounds quite like he was doing a lot of different diverse events as you are as well. So it's you're kind of carrying the mantle on. I was wondering, what are since taking it on and working with your mum and not having your dad around to kind of oversee and help and whatnot, what have been some pros and cons of taking on because it is a big project. There's a lot of work involved in running the system, and I was wondering if there's some things that prior to you taking it on, maybe you didn't realize there were certain things that crop up every time that are pros and cons and things like that, essentially.
So that's honestly, I think every part of it is a pro.
Nice.
It really is. Even just see the feeling you get. The only con is it's extremely stressful. I guess it's very, very stressful. But just the feeling you get from you put the sound system in the venue. Fair enough. Even recently, we did the well, it didn't end up going ahead in the end. But there was a Halloween event at the jewelry factory, and that was stressful because one of the speakers just wasn't working. And I don't drive or anything, but luckily my or one of our people was part of the sound system, Ras Tenda. He was up and he drives, so we were able to go get another speaker, blah blah blah. But just stuff like that. You could be in the studio, it's all wired up, it sounds amazing, and then you take it somewhere and just something's not working.
Yeah, I bet.
But
I mean,
really
it goes from a controlled environment where you understand the system because it's in the acoustic space that you are used to having at your studio. Where everything's and then you're in a space that you've maybe not used before, and it
No,
could be
exactly.
damn, it could be anything, you know.
Yeah,
It
because
could be
so even like positioning and all that kind of stuff, like it's you never like obviously you know what a venue is going to be like when it's empty, but like when it's full, you need to like obviously like think about that, like where you're going to get the best sound, all these kind of things. But like just to touch on the pros again, quite like a
yeah,
real pro is like being able to like work with my mum quite a lot because
yeah,
like she does bring such like a just like a nice calming element to everything, and like she's such like a good person to work with because like sure enough she might not be so like technically gifted when it comes to wiring up the sound system and stuff. Like it's mainly me that does like the load-ins and load-outs, but just like her being around is just such like a nice presence.
yeah.
But like
Calming
I think
presence.
yeah, exactly. It's just like makes you feel at ease.
Yeah,
But you need that though, because like I say, it can be such like a high stress environment, and it can be
it's
like a place where, especially when you're working with venues, because people. That's thing. One of the cons as well. Definitely, like working with people can obviously be amazing, but it can be like difficult because sometimes someone will say one thing, but then because they don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to the sound side of things, you'll get there and you need to do it like a complete opposite way. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and working with venues as well, sometimes you don't get loads and loads of time to set up. Like
Big time.
preferably you'd like to be in maybe like 2 hours before, so the sound system's set up maybe within like an hour, and then you've just
Yeah,
got like an hour of like tweaking the sound.
yeah, 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 yeah. In a perfect world, you're there at
Yeah.
midday and you get to set it up and then go away
No.
and have dinner
Yeah.
and come back
Exactly.
and it's all
Exactly.
ready for you to go. But
Yeah.
it never really transpires like that, does it?
No, because a lot of venues in Glasgow as well are used for bands as well. So
Yeah,
there'll be like a gig on, and then you've got like
yeah.
an hour between the gig and the nightclub to start setting up, and it's difficult.
It really is.
A lot
It's
of
a real.
sweaty nights before the nights even start.
It's a real. It's a real profession. Like being able to, because there's so much riding on it as well. You know, like
No, I
bad
know.
sound can ruin a night. I mean, we've all
Yeah,
been there,
100%.
pubs, and it sounded rubbish, and it just puts you. It doesn't matter who's playing. It could be the best band or
No,
DJ. If
exactly.
it doesn't sound good, nothing they can do about it is going to make it better. You know, and
No, exactly.
so it's having that little amount of time to turn it around and get the
Yeah.
best out of the system for the completely unique, maybe first time it's ever been in that space for
Mm.
whatever reason. So then in that
But
case,
see just what you're saying about that though.
yeah,
That's like so true. Because even as because obviously we both DJ, like
yeah,
you can do a bad mix, and people might not really notice because like they don't really know what it's meant to sound like.
yeah,
But say like if a sound system can't sound bad because you need
yeah.
like because like I say like if it's a bad mix you can kind of disguise it a wee bit, but there's no way to disguise a bad sound,
No. People
and you'll
notice.
just instantly get a reputation.
Yeah, exactly. It takes one night, you know, and
Yeah.
it's so cutthroat. It can be the make or break of sound systems as well. You know, I'm not going to name names at all because that's not what
Mm.
we're about. But there's certain sound systems that I don't necessarily, you know, like I wouldn't be like, oh, I really want to go for that sound system
Yeah,
because
it
I've been
doesn't sound system.
like either obnoxiously loud or the mids and the highs have been far too piercing, and
Yeah.
and no matter what, like you say, if a mix is bad, fine, but if elements of a song that you recognize sound totally different from what they should sound like on a
Yeah.
system, that is it for the rest of the
No,
night. It's all you
exactly.
think about. So I'd
Yeah,
like
'cause
to. Sorry, we'll just.
yeah, no,
I'm
'cause
just.
I'm just
We're running through, so maybe you could just quickly run through the steps from getting the offer from, say, Jupiter
yeah,
Artland. Let's use Jupiter Artland as an example,
yeah, that
and
sounds good.
what happens from that instance to take down and putting it back in the van after the weekend, sort of thing. And we'll
Yeah,
just so people understand the work it takes to get the
yeah,
system in
that sounds good.
place.
So like I said, obviously like you said, even the offer will come in, and then it's just about working out like how many speakers, like what style of setup you really need for the space. So because obviously if it's outdoors, the setup will be completely different than a setup indoors. But so we have the studio. We'll go to the studio, sort all the sound system with by speaking to the promoter. So just find out what it is they want, and then you set up. So like So you kind of like I like to write everything down just so I know for facts like what it is I need. Just so I've kind of got that like note of it. So then
Yeah.
I'll set. I don't drive, which anyone who's listening who's thinking about starting a sound system, learn how to drive first
Get a
because
license.
I don't get. Yeah, I don't drive and that's the biggest nightmare really. So like you on the I'd usually like to have the stuff in the van that morning. So, for example, so for Jupiter Heartland, we used two bass box. So sorry, four bass boxes, two mids. Sorry, so basically it was two mids, two bass boxes, and two tops. But it's like
Yeah.
two on each side and then two on the other side. So it was four of each, all in total. So yeah, so then start. So what I do is I'll sort the cabling. Just make like always pack extra cables because there's nothing worse than getting to a venue and you've not got enough cables, and then you need to do that panic and try and like sort out if you can like cable it with not enough cables, which like never works. You can maybe try it, but it never works. And then so you'll bring your amps for the mix for the bass, mids, and tops, and we use a Ligwa preamp as well, just so we can kind of fine tune the like each sound, like each part. I couldn't think there. Sorry. So yeah, with Jupiter Island, we went there in the morning. The system because the system was only getting used on the Saturday there, so it just got like kind of stored away until the Saturday morning, and we set up on the Saturday morning. We will ratchet it up so like there's no chance it can move or fall on anyone, and then just. But the main thing is just finding the best position to hit all of the audience. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no point you bring like this big amazing sounding sound system and it's not reaching people the way it should. Like positioning is definitely such a big thing. Like if there's going to be a stage, if there's going to be someone on the mic as well, because you don't want to get like feedback.
Yeah.
Like it's just all the kind of small things like that. Like you don't want your wires trailing along the floor because it could cause trip hazards. Like you just need to think about. You just need to also think about like people's safety. Like, are people going to be safe with the sound system here?
Yeah.
Because that would be the worst thing. Like these boxes are heavy. Like they're heavy boxes.
It takes like 3 or 4 people to lift one, you know. So
yeah, no, exactly. And so if that falls on someone, like it's not going to be a good night.
No.
And you just so then like what I always do is once the event. So throughout the night you're just like fine tuning it on the preamp, like I said, like. Because obviously different DJs will because they see the big sound system, they get excited and start like properly cranking it, which luckily a bass audio can handle it, but like I know there's some sound systems that just can't handle that at all.
And you're there to keep the flow right, because essentially it's also like it's the people dancing and the people in the audience. You want it to be a consistent sound throughout the night, you know, where it gets better.
You want it to be actually enjoyable as well. You don't want it to be like you're sitting like all night, like not trying to hear anything. Like you want it to be like an actually like enjoyable. You want to be like that thing with stereo. Like cause stereo is like that nice compact venue. Like you feel like kind of immersed in the whole experience. Like it adds so much to the night. But I say so throughout the night. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So throughout the night, like I'll just fine tune in, make sure everything's sounding good. Like there's a lot of like standing in the crowd, like not dancing, just like standing there like stiff, trying to like listen to the sound, just make sure it's hitting right from both sides. It's a lot of like going back between like the mixer, preamp, the crowd, like just a lot of that sort of stuff, just like general maintenance for the whole night. And then once the night's done, like I'll just power everything down. I'll usually wait a wee bit before powering it down and taking out the cables just in case like some of the electrics pops or whatever, like just because there's a lot of power that goes into the speakers. So that's another thing you really need to think about as well, like where you're getting your power from the preamps, or like just for all the amps even, because you really want to be plugged in directly to a wall. You don't want to be like plugged into an extension cable or whatever. Like you want to just be like straight from the source. But then it's a lot of like, to be fair, the end of the night's always quite fun because like people are always like, "Oh, that was such like a good night." Like, you could just tell people have properly enjoyed it. And it's a lot of just like chatting to the DJs, like tying up cables, moving stuff. Like it's a lot of nights, a lot of fun. Sometimes you can't like take the sound system out straight away just just because, like I said again, I don't drive, so getting a van is pretty difficult. But I'll always, sound system will always get stored away where I know it's gonna be safe, and
Yeah.
and that's like, see the stuff that I can take at the time, I usually will try and take it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because like if you're renting out like decks as well, or mixers or
Yeah.
microphones and all that kind of stuff, like you know how easily stuff can go missing.
Yeah. Especially at a festival. Do you know what I mean? When there's so many people and so many things going on, it's really difficult.
No,
cool.
exactly.
Well, I think we will we'll play another song, but this one will be one of yours. Steve, if you could pop on Idonia, yeah, please. And then we will talk a little bit more about the sound system and the community that surrounds it.
Cool.
J.O.P. Yeah. Ho. Couple rubber band, couple stop then. Yeah. Couple rubber band, couple stop then. Yeah. Up inna the street, we a drop dead. J.O.P. We a go party tonight, you just watch. Tonight, me feel I spend some cash. Cool on the Benz, just wash. If a Givenchy shoes, then the belt must match. Gucci loafers with a tough top. Money no fi call thicker than a Kuyano, with a clutch back. When a bad sound clear, we say pull it up back. Everybody shout, yeah. Push, load, rum. Yo, we a wild out and a shout, yeah. Push, load, rum. Buck a new girl, tell them the word them, where fi sweet them. Yeah, just a smile with the pretty teeth them. Yeah, give me the look here, where fi meet them. Pull up on the hand press, kick them. Yeah, give them the kush with the any treatment. Yeah, anybody Jenna step in street shell. Yeah, beach party me turn up on the seashell. And when me say PP, them a dream weekend. We a show, yeah. Me and the peep on a Sunday say yeah. Couple jet scare, me and a gal a get where. Get saved, when me tell her say you're sexy. You laugh and a dig. The next day, check me at that a chess play. Pool party. Me a gal inna the mansion, yeah, the UF way. Everybody say, yeah. Push, load, rum. Yo, we a wild out and a shout. Yeah. Push, load, rum. Buck a new girl. Couple stop then, yeah. Couple rubber band, couple stop then, yeah. Up inna the street, we a drop dead. J.O.P. We a go party tonight, you just watch. Tonight, me feel I spend some cash.
Oh, there we go. That was a bit. I got out a little bit earlier than I think we both thought it would.
I love that
song. Absolute banger, man. I was giving it. So I thought we could tie up a little bit of talking because we've only got 20 minutes left. So I thought we could tie up a little bit about Bass Warrior and kind of move into talking a little bit about one of the topics you want to talk about, which is young people backing themselves. So just to tie up with Bass Warrior, one of the central themes around all kind of sound systems is the community that surrounds each one, or as a whole. And I think now more than ever, that sense of community is absolutely vital. I mean, like every time you turn on the news, it's just becoming more and more clear how important it is that we treat one another with kindness. What do you think about what do you think about building the community around Bass Warrior, and how do you plan to kind of increase the community, and where do you see Bass Warrior in the next 5 years? That's kind of all one kind of question, basically. Yeah.
No, so that's the thing. Like with Bass Warrior, like I said, it's my dad about it, and it's like me, my mum, the operator just now. Like it is a family sound system. Like there's no question about it, and it's just like it is just such like an important thing, especially being like having that like Caribbean roots like from Montserrat. Like it's just like something that we try and like push so hard, like so heavy even. Because like even like for example, like the Bass Warrior was used as the sound for the Black Lives Matter protests in Glasgow Green. It's just like a massive thing, like it was huge. And I know that would have been something that my dad would have been like so hard, like heavy into. Like he would have wanted that so badly, his sound system to be used for such like a powerful message. Yes. And it's just so important to like keep that community, because even with like even within Glasgow, like it's definitely can get quite cliquey, and it's
Absolutely.
just like and like there's a lot of like people like, and that thing there's definitely such like a group in Glasgow that are trying so hard to like push everyone, which is such like an amazing thing, and we just want to be part of that. We just want to like even it's just like even just like we don't want to be like like inclusive just to like just to sorry, exclusive just to reggae. Like we want to like be able to like do all kinds of music, like even if like it's live band or like indie music, rock music, anything. Like we just want to be like we just want to be able to push music within Scotland and within Glasgow,
Yeah.
because it's so difficult for people to Glasgow to get recognition as it is anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like if there's a sound system within Glasgow that's really like want to push that like hard,
Yeah.
like that we want that to be us.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it sounds like we talked about last year. You were talking about events that you want to do. You know, like more lots more daytime events, community driven events with like with food and family friendly and
Yeah, because like I've said to you before as well, like we want you to be able to bring your kids to
Yeah.
like base water events. That's what was so good about the Scout Hall event we did, because it was families. There was like
Yeah.
newborn babies there with like ear protectors on. Like like we want it to be like I say, we want it to be open for everyone, and we want like you don't have to feel like you need to be in a nightclub to like 3 in the morning to hear the sound system. You want to be able to hear the sound system like just like on a Sunday of like 2 p.m. Do you know what I mean? Like just like well, it's sunny, so we can have the sound system out.
Yeah. And how do you plan on kind of, is there any plan for building the audience that you have already, or are you just going to keep doing what you're doing and it's working as it is right now?
No, so like that's the thing. Like I said, it's been locked down for quite a while now, so we have been kind of maybe kind of halted a wee bit. But
Yeah.
now that we've got stuff coming up, and we know like this year especially, I was even just speaking to Mum the other day. Like we've got so many ideas and events we want to push, like collabs we want to have with people, like all these kind of things. Like we want to just want to like because I think like I don't know, it's just difficult because we've not been able to do stuff for such a long time now. It's like this year we want to just go as hard as we can,
Yeah.
and even if it's just like I mean, it's going to be tiring, it'll be stressful, it'll be all these things, that's that's what it's about. Like it's never going to be an easy running a sound
No.
system.
And anything worthwhile is not easy.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it takes work, and I think especially it sounds like you're both very hungry for it as well after having 2 years of not being able to utilize something that's so important to you deeply and
No,
deeply
exactly.
personal. It's great. Cool. Okay, well, let's move on to talking a little bit about young people backing themselves and holding worth in their work, because we talked a little bit about that in the past, but I would like to hear your take on it. And as you're kind of within the age group of these sessions are aimed at, I thought you might be able to give some advice to anyone who wants to kind of start their own thing, whether it be a sound system, whether it be whatever, and how can they kind of back themselves and create worth for themselves when in the grand picture of there being so many people doing it, and sometimes doors don't open for certain people and etc.
Yeah, I think like one of the main things when I was younger was people just told you couldn't really do things like that. Like you needed to like have like all this money behind you, or like you needed to like even just like even to get in venues. Like a lot of people I think a lot of people when you're first kind of starting off DJs, clubs will give you like every like second Wednesday or something, or like, and it's obviously it's difficult because like I don't know how often people really would do stuff like that on a Wednesday, but I think like you just need to obviously try and take every opportunity as it comes, but like also at the same time like know your value, like know if someone's asking you to come into their place, like don't let them just say, oh, but we'll give you like a wee like £50 at the end of the night or something like that. Especially if they're charging like £10 a ticket. Do you know what I mean? Like, know that if someone's asking you, don't maybe at the same time, like as I say, obviously take every opportunity that comes, but don't also be afraid to say no to people.
Yes,
And I think
and
that's like a big thing. Like, don't be afraid to be like, you know what, like this actually doesn't work for me. Like, I don't feel like you're really giving me the respect I deserve, because I know when I was first starting out, like I took a lot of events and a lot of things that I was like, I don't even know, like, really know like why I'm doing this. Like, I'm not really, like, I'm not benefiting from it. Like, if anything, I'm getting bumped here.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's the same. I've had the same experience, and then also you can very easily fall into a trap of being known as the person who does it for favors or who does
yeah,
it for some drinks tokens or some free
yeah,
guests, and then it's very very difficult to get out of that once people
no,
associate
exactly.
you as that kind of person, and that's like you say is holding your worth and knowing when to say no or knowing how to communicate that actually this isn't for me and it's no shade, it's
Yeah,
just I want to get paid, like I'm
no,
wanting to do this,
exactly.
and
No,
if
but
you're up
saying no to someone doesn't need to be like a big thing. Like, you can say
yeah
no to someone and it's like fine. Like, they'll find someone else and you'll also find other work.
yeah and if they give you any stick about it, then they're not worth being involved
Yeah,
with any, like if they're going to give you a hard time for saying no or are going to talk about you whatever, then they're not the kind of people you want to be collaborating with in the first place. So
yeah. Because if they're gonna act like that when you say no, imagine then when you say yes. Well,
yeah
it's gonna be like they would just be 10 times worse because you're in their space under
yeah
their rules. That's
yeah
the thing, like with Toolette, like Toolette was started by me and like my friend Ewan, like just like
yeah
walking about Glasgow, trying to find venues and like just speaking to the building owner directly and just being like, we want to put on an event here. Like, we
yeah
weren't bothered about like like asking if it was okay for like permission from like other DJs in Glasgow and all this kind of thing. Like, if you want to do something, just go out and like you can make it happen for yourself. If
yeah
you've got like a solid team around you and people who are also willing to hit like back you because they know the things you can do. Like,
yeah
people are always going to help you if they can see that you're actually passionate about something.
yes
Like, if you're only doing stuff like that for like to get like a name in your city and like people know who you are, then you're doing it for the complete wrong reason. You should
exactly
only be doing it because you've got like a strong love towards what it is you're doing. You know what I mean?
absolutely, and people see through it immediately, like
Yeah, straight away.
the kind of what the crap meter, shall we say, because we're not swearing.
Yeah.
The it's instantaneous if someone gets in touch and you know that this is a self-serving connection they're
Mhm.
trying to make, and they're not interested in sharing or collaborating, they're interested in
Yeah.
building something for themselves. I think it's absolutely fine to know that within yourself that that's what you want, but you've also
Yeah.
got to, it can't be at the compromise or at the loss of providing something for the community as well. Like it
No,
goes hand in
exactly.
hand, like, and lots of people talk about it, like you bring the people up with you who supported you as you rose, or
Yeah.
or if you're, like you say, if you're putting on an event or something like that, the worthwhile aspect of the event. It's more than just, Ira's putting on an event. This is for Ira. Like
Yeah.
this is providing something much bigger and much more important for a wider group of people.
No,
And
exactly.
it's the same. It's also the same as approaching people for opportunities. Like I never would just cold email people. I don't, like, or anything like that. Like
Mm.
it's all about creating those connections because we're all into this for the same reasons. We all
Yeah,
love
exactly.
football. We all love hanging out with one another, making new friends, listening to new music. Like that's the motivation. That should be the first point of motivation, and then
Mhm.
from
Yeah,
that
definitely.
positivity, things will grow. And if people see, like you say, if people see that you're real, they'll start offering you more and more opportunities because they know you're in it for the right reasons.
Yeah, like what you say about that. Like, it's all just like I wouldn't really want to work with someone that I didn't really vibe with.
Yeah,
Like, if someone's vibe's completely off for me, then like I would most likely turn the event down because yeah, it's just about like having that connection with who it is running the night, and if and that's like obviously you get events the money they offer you is hard to turn down, and like the opportunity as well, like it is hard to turn down, but like if people aren't in something for the right thing and for the same reason that you're doing it, then you're never really gonna fully be able to work with them.
exactly. And it could potentially, like you say, like that was a really interesting point about, the money might be really good, and it could be for like some big name
Yeah,
promoter or club or whatever. But if the vibe doesn't feel right and you go and the night is off and people who know about Base Warrior or know about you and your
yeah,
brand and they go along and they see you doing something like that, or even people who don't, like, you're not going to be doing your best version. You're not going to be your best version of yourself in that
No,
situation.
exactly.
So you're then not doing yourself justice by being there and taking that
Yeah,
opportunity as well, you know?
that's what I mean. That's what I mean when I say like, you don't need to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you really don't need to, because you almost want to, like, that's the thing with sound system. Like, you can definitely pick and choose, not pick and choose, but like if an offer comes in, like, and it's not for you, like I would like, there's people that I know that it would be more suited to, and I would always just say like, I'll pass it on to them, because
Yeah.
if something's not right for you, it doesn't mean it won't be right for someone else.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's just, and it's sharing, it's kind of sharing the love around. But
Yeah,
it's you know, like, it's creating opportunities for as many people as you can who
no, exactly.
align with you and have the same beliefs as you, and that's what keeps a solid community as well.
Yeah,
Because then in some time, maybe that person will be approached and will think, oh, this isn't for me, but it is for Ira, you know, and
yeah,
vice
and
versa.
that's the whole thing. Yeah, it's community and keeping it for like bringing that unity between all the different groups in Glasgow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So talking about Toulette, I thought we could maybe play a kind of quintessential Toulette track. So if we're going to listen to Lil Silva Season, and then we'll talk a little bit about Toulette and how you run that as well as another business.
Yeah, cool.
Ah, so good, so good.
Yeah,
Night Slugs,
any
always. Slugs.
chance I get to play that song, I'm playing
Oh man, it just goes
it.
off every time. That one.
Every
Ah.
single time.
So that's quite typical kind of Toulette vibe, right?
Yeah, kind of UK funky, hard drum, like just like feel good music, as I like to say.
Rowdy as well,
Yeah,
man. Gets people jumping and going.
like,
And
we know how to get a party happening, definitely.
yeah, so because you mentioned just briefly that walking around and looking for venues and stuff like that and alternative spaces.
Mhm.
So what made you want to seek out those kind of alternative spaces rather than specific traditional club spaces?
I don't know, like you know, where you're like what you're like when you're younger, you're just like interested in like kind of doing stuff that's like out the box and like. And what the thing was as well, like you know so like one of like the kind of maybe I'd say like kind of unofficial first two let night was in like the old Checkmate building. Oh,
Yeah.
my phone just fell down. Sorry. It was in the old Checkmate building. Like we just kind of like did a party there, and even when we did that, like we had like 10 people DJing. Like it was very just like you know we were all maybe almost like frightened to like just do it like just us because it
Yeah.
was like such like a big venture. But then like it was just like I don't know. There's just something like so special about doing a night in somewhere that shouldn't have a club night on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just like these old warehouses or like old like abandoned buildings and stuff. Like it just adds like the see like because you go into a space like that and you instantly you're, oh my god, like this place is amazing. So then to add like a massive sound system to it, like decks, like obviously we'd always do up the place to make it look cool. Like we'd set up, oh my god, sorry, we'd set up like a nice DJ booth and all these kind of things. Like we were just like the way we would because we just had like you know how when you've just got so many like ideas for things, and
Yeah.
you're almost like limiting yourself just doing it in clubs.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a set standard. The booth is where the booth is. The lights
Yeah.
look in a certain way. You can only fit X amount of people. The club, most people have been in the club multiple times, so they know what it
So
looks.
it's not a new experience.
Yeah,
Because the original plan for Two Let was every single night would be in a different venue,
yeah, okay.
and obviously like that ended
That
up
became
being
quite difficult.
yeah, it was. I think really it was pretty unrealistic.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like just having that space where it was like you could almost just like be anything you wanted to be because you're not restricted to like just being in a club. Like you can if you want to like go for a wee wander about, like it's almost going to be like a new experience.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
like something you want to push heavily. Like it's a new experience. Like it's something that hasn't well, it's obviously been done before, but like we just wanted to have like our own take to it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. So how long's Till It been running now?
So that's the thing. Two Let was always like the kind of warehouse parties. Like it kind of me and my friend Tom, we kind of got merged into do Occupied at the art school. Obviously, Two Let is and then Occupied. Like obviously the building's been sold. Do you know what I mean? Like that was kind of the Two Let was the idea behind it because it's like buildings that aren't clubs, and it's like it's almost we're going in and just offering the guy money to do a night now. Like you're trying to buy the place from him.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's probably been about 5 years or so now, maybe.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
And
is that we had. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, for anyone who is watching or watching after the fact, because I'm aware we've got about a minute left. My goodness. So, are there any tips and advice for anyone looking to get into either running a sound system or running a club night as their own independent business as a young person?
You know, I like a main thing I would say is just be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, don't try and like do it because you want to do it. Don't try and like do it because you want to like please people, or don't even like a lot. That thing you get with DJ especially. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, can you do this kind of night?" Like, say it's like and it's like, no, I actually can't because that's not the music I listen to. That's not the vibe I love. Like, just you always just need to do the thing that you love.
Yeah,
Like,
and have integrity about it.
Yeah, and just yeah, exactly. You don't like you shouldn't have to like mold yourself to fit other people. You should just be yourself all the time, and that's the best way to like.
Yeah. And exactly, I mean, the thing is, as well, is there's so many people out there that your thing is going to really jam with someone else. They're going to love it.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to try and please everyone. I remember like starting out, I would try and do every single gig I could get my hands on, and kind of you water down what your passion is for it, and then that doesn't shine through as much anymore, and then
exactly,
people don't pick up on it as much anymore, you know.
Yeah, because you're never going to be your best self if you're not being true to yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like
exactly, that is, I think That is a perfect statement to end on.
Yes.
Ira,
No,
thank you
yeah,
so much. This has
it's all
been an
good.
absolute
Thank you
pleasure.
for having
Again,
me.
the current theme is that we could be talking for 5 hours, and there's never enough time in an
Yeah.
hour. But I really appreciate it, Ira, and I wish you all the best
Yeah,
with
thank
Bass
you for
Warrior.
having
I'm
me.
sure if anyone's in Glasgow, you might see us collaborating this year. Who knows?
Yeah,
Fingers
100%.
crossed. Fingers crossed. All right, Ira. Thank you very much.
Nice one, man. Thank you.
We'll be back. We'll be back next week with Genevieve Taylor. She is a publicist and works in promotion, and she and I are going to be talking about sustaining a career in music and how to avoid burnout. So, if that is something that you feel resonates with yourself, please do check in this time next week at 7 p.m. and we'll be back and live. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Ira.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Nice one, man.
Bye, everybody. Cheers.
See you.